Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Scott Hepler Football Channel. Today we're doing a little different thing. We got a special segment that we're going to be doing here. I'm going to be evaluating the Spurs' chances to finish in the top five based on how they have done over the season and project that forward into the last 11 matches. And I also did a comparative against other teams like Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, Aston Villa, Leicester City, and West Ham. Yeah. So I got my little notes up here. I may be cheating a little bit because I got a lot of stats and details that I really want to get right because I've spent a lot of time breaking down everything. So with that being said, we're going to get into pondering upon the Spurs' opportunity to get in top five, and which puts us in European competition for next year through the Premier League. So what I did here was I took and broke the season down by quarters. And so the way I did that, of course, we have 38 matches, so you can't break it down evenly into quarters. So I did the first 2 quarters are 9 matches, and then the last 2 quarters are 10 matches. And so that's how I've got it broken down. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of look at each quarter. We'll walk back a little bit, look at each one, where we were at, what was going on, and talk about that a little bit as we're going through and discussing what I think the Spurs' opportunities are to make top five. On any of these items that I'm bringing up, please, let's have a conversation, make comments. As always, if you enjoy the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Definitely want to engage with you all. Want to build a community here where we can have conversations and have good debate. So with that being said, we're going to talk about it. And so I took and broke it down statistically. I used goals scored for and against. I used things such as how many points we're accumulating per match, and acquired all that data throughout each quarter and broke it down. And I've also figured out, based on what's happening, how that projects forward going through the season, while taking a look at the remaining matches each team has to play. So I've got it broken down, I think, pretty reasonably well. I've built in a margin of error of about 3 points, and that's for all these things that we're going to look at and evaluate as far as the finishing points for the teams. And so we'll just get right into it and talk about the first quarter. So the first quarter, obviously, we were flying high as Spurs fans. We were top of the league at the end of the first 9 matches. We were sitting there in first place. We were tied in points with Liverpool, but we had them on goal differential. So you see there, we were scoring 2.33 goals per match. We were only giving up 1 goal per match. We were collecting 2.22 points per match. That's a really good rate. I'd say anything over 2 per match is a really strong outcome. And then we were pitched 3 shutouts in that period of time. Compare that against all the other teams that we're looking at here, and I'll just say this: could be argued that we draw Man United into this mix, but at the point in time making this, which is prior to the weekend matches of the 12th, 13th, and 14th, I don't have them included in this rung of teams. These are the teams I feel are more comparative in where they're at and what they're fighting for. And so, but compared to the other teams in the first quarter, we were dominant. We were really a dominant team. And then, we were scoring goals. We were pitching shutouts. We were playing great defense. We were, at that time we were the top, if not one of the top defensive teams in the league. And so we had a lot of things working for us. And so we were sitting really nice there in that first quarter. And then once we rolled into that second quarter, things kind of took a turn. So over the next 9 matches, our goals per match goes down to 1.33, significant drop. And then the opponent's goals per match drops a little bit, which is, showing that we're still playing pretty good defense, but it doesn't drop much. So our margin for error diminishes very quickly there in that period of time. And then our points per match, which to me is really the telltale of this second quarter, goes from 2.22 down to 1.44, which is huge difference. We lost almost a full point per match. And you see some of these other teams like Everton and Leicester City, where they're doing well, and that's where they're kind of moving up and taking some control of things within their ability to move up in positions. So we really were struggling, and we had dropped from first at the end of the first quarter down to sixth. So we know what's happened this season. We gave up tons of points in that second quarter. It was essentially what happened. We were ahead in many occasions. Case in point, the first West Ham game, and just gave away 2 points. So, I mean, we were giving points away like they were candy at Halloween. So we were struggling. We were coming into a funk. Also, Harry Kane got dinged and had an injury. I just feel like that teams had figured us out too, because early on, that's the first time in the first 9 matches. That's the first time teams were really seeing Kane drop deep and come in off that position up top and become more of a false 9 or even almost a pseudo cam in occurrences. And teams were starting to figure it out because they stopped tracking Kane then and started holding their center backs back at that time. And we weren't making an adjustment to counter that. And I think that's kind of where some of our issue occurred. Plus, we started having some injuries and things, a few things like that. Kane, a couple here and there with Aurier. We've had a number of different injuries throughout the season. So that was a key turning point for us in, stopping that great momentum we had from that first quarter. So going into the third quarter, we're on quite a disparaging downward trend. And in the third quarter, we have in our first, and remember, this is 10 matches now, and this is the first 10 match quarter we have. So we went through our first 3 losses in a row in the Premier League within this third quarter here. And it pretty much started off the third quarter. And it just put us off on the wrong foot to start with for this third quarter. And for this third quarter so far, with 9 matches in, we've gone 4 wins and 5 losses. Now, we have put back-to-back wins here in the Premier League. And we've actually gone 5 wins in a row in all competitions. So it's, we're starting to see that come back around a little bit. But if you look at the numbers, our goals per match are still kind of where they were in that second quarter. The opponent's goals per match have increased. So we're giving up more goals than match than we did in the first and second quarter. So our margin of error for this quarter is really tightened up. And then the points per match has stayed about the same as the second quarter. We were about 1.33. And it kind of shows with our league positioning. Second quarter, we were 6th at the end of the second quarter. So we're sitting 7th right now. So with 45 points. So we're kind of, figuring ourselves out. And I think this last match against Arsenal for the third quarter is going to really give us an indicator on what are we going to do going forward. And, it's great that we've got these 3 wins in a row, but we also had 3 losses in a row. So it's kind of figuring out what are we really? What is Tottenham at this point in the season really? So something we can look at is for the season we have for goals per match, we're scoring about 1.7. Goals allowed for the season, we're at 1.04. So even though we've had a rough third quarter giving up more goals, the 2 first quarters have really shown that we can actually play pretty decently defensively But usually I think that's because we're out on the front foot and we get ahead on things, and we force teams into being reckless. And that's where I think our best opportunities to be defensive are. And then points per match for the season to date, and this is, everything up, including the Crystal Palace game here in March. We're collecting about 1.67 points per match. So we've kind of starting to turn the points per match around within the third quarter compared to the second quarter, but we're still not even near, because we're a full 0.6 points below where we were in that first quarter. Now, don't get me wrong, that first quarter was amazing. That's probably a little high of expectations, I would say. But, so that's something that I'm taking into account too when I'm putting in all these numbers and coming up. I got a big spreadsheet with all this stuff that helps me calculate all the numbers and everything. So going into the final quarter, we're going to still need a lot of points because we're sitting seventh, and projecting what other teams are doing and where they're at. Because if you look at it, on the third quarter, you got Chelsea's in fourth, West Ham's in fifth, Leicester's in third. And for us, we're shooting for fifth or better right now. And so for us to move into that, and you can see kind of what they're doing compared to us through the third quarter. Well, they're all doing very well in collecting points per match. And that's not us. We're not collecting points per match very well. And that's going to make it difficult to make up ground. Now, part of that being able to make up ground is what opponents do you play in the last 10, 11 matches, depending on where you're at. Some teams have 10 matches left. Some have 11. Like one or two that even have 12. So that also plays into part of this. So I went through each team's remaining schedule and kind of projected what their results would be. And then with that, that's how I came up with what I predict the final results to be for the Premier League this season, at least within these teams that I'm looking at and talking about. As far as Man City and Man United, I just kind of pushed them out of the realm of discussing. Although, if you're talking about Leicester City, I guess you could talk about Man United, so they're kind of synonymous. But, so we're going to take a look at what I think the final predicted results will be for the season. Remember, Spurs have 11 matches. And this is what I came up with. I figure Leicester's going to hang on to third, Chelsea will hang on to fourth, and West Ham's going to probably nudge us out by a point for fifth. And over our last 11 matches, I have the Spurs going 7-1-3. So 7 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses. So that's still an outstanding 11-match run. Now, this could all change, but I still think that we're probably just going to miss. Based on all the data that we have at this point, I feel like we're just going to miss the top 5. And now this will change. This could change for better or worse based on how matches go. We got the Arsenal match coming up on Sunday this weekend. And depending on how other teams do in their matches can move all this. So I probably will do a updated version of this on a weekly basis to allow this to kind of evolve and see as the numbers change and things do move where things may end up. So, but at this point where we sit right now, I feel we're going to fall just short. And that, like I said, that's still with an outstanding run to the end of the season. But let me know what you all think. I've sat down and gone through every little statistic that I've collected and parceled out the remaining schedule for each of these teams. But I'm hopeful that our form is going to continue to progress, and maybe I'm a little conservative on my estimates. And hey, if I'm conservative, that means good things are happening. So I hope I'm being a little extra conservative and factoring in the stats, but I'm usually pretty good with numbers. I do auditing for a living, and my education's accounting, so I'm pretty decent with numbers. But I feel like that's why we play the matches too. I mean, you just never know, and but I'm excited that we are going to be this close. I mean, it'd be different if we were like 5 or 6 points below 5th place, and I'd be like, gosh, man, that's really going to be tough. If I'm giving us 7 wins out of 11 to pick up 5 or 6 more points, that's got to find 2 wins. And that means that you only lose 1 or 2 matches for the last 11 matches, which is going to be very difficult. So only being 1 point difference in this analysis really gives me a little hope that there's some play and some leeway for us to actually progress beyond what I'm predicting. And, for other teams to fall back a little farther than I have them at this point too. So let me know what you all think. I will continue this each week. I'll throw something up each week, once a week, just to kind of give us a little update where we're at, what my stats are showing and statistics are kind of telling me, and we'll see where things are at. But let's go, you Spurs. Let's go get that top 5. You know what? Why not? Let's just run 11 in a row to finish out the season. Why not? Let's just do it and see what happens. All right. Come on, you Spurs.